All right, guys, I know you've been waiting for this video, and in this video, we're going to break down the Kemei KM-1386 clipper, or as I like to call it, the K45, because it's a knockoff of the BaByliss Tomb45 clipper. And it's not the same clipper. Anyone that thinks that this is the same thing as this, just with a different logo, is definitely mistaken. It's not the same clipper. It doesn't have the rubber grips. It's cheaper plastic. It feels way lighter, and it's like they even cheaped out on the lights. The lights aren't even as bright on the Kemei, but we're going to put it through the Barber's Lounge test because I know you guys want to see it. And don't be surprised if you see them slapping every type of motor in this body style, because it is a popular body style. And I will be using the Tomb45 for reference throughout the video. This isn't going to be like a direct comparison, because I do have like a deep dive video on these clippers already, and I'll put the link in the description. And you guys already know, we're going to heat test the blades. We're going to talk about the motor. We're going to test the torque. We're going to test the runtime. We're going to take the machine apart and really break it down. So as always, we start with the blades. Now, one thing you may not know about this machine is that it has a detachable head. And if you have something like the Kemei 1825, yes, this detachable head will fit on it and work. Not only that, if you have the FXONE, the detachable head, which I just so happen to have the fat blade on it, will fit on it as well. Now, back to the Kemei K45. So now let's take the blade off and look at it. And with the blades off, you'll see this has the standard 2-hole bracket. This doesn't have 4 holes, so you won't be able to put any Andis blades on this as it comes out the box. And starting off with the stationary blade, like I said before, this is a taper blade, grooves on the back. This blade is 21 teeth, flipping the blade over, no coating in the contact area, and this is coated in DLC. Moving on to the cutting blade, 28 teeth. This is a ceramic cutting blade. It's not metal. And you'll see they usually always have the oil reservoirs underneath the teeth and in the feet of the blade. And when you compare these blades to the blades on the Tomb45 is a more premium metal injection molded blades, and it has a fade blade, and it has more positions in the click arm and has a better click arm as well. Way nicer. So now that we know about the blade, let's give it a little heat test and see how hot they get on the 2 speeds that this machine offers. All right, so for the heat test, we're going to let the blades run for 30 minutes on each speed and see how hot the blades get, starting off right now with the low speed. All right, so at the 30 minutes on the low speed, we got up to 116 degrees. I would categorize that as a little hot for a machine that has a ceramic cutting blade and that's supposed to be operating at 7,000 RPMs on the low speed. Now let's check the high speed. Same deal. We're gonna let the machine run for 30 minutes and see how hot they get. And after 30 minutes on the high speed, we got up to 117 degrees, pretty much the same temperature because the machine is only operating at 500 more RPMs. All right, so now let's talk about the motor for this machine. Now this has a regular brush motor. I did feel like this motor was a little fluttery when cutting, like it would feel like it would jump around in speeds, and definitely didn't seem like a premium motor. It offers 2 speeds. When the button's green, that's on the lower speed. When it's red, it's on the higher speed. So let's see how much torque it has and put it through a couple brushes. K45 on a low speed. And you hear that motor fluttering towards the end. That's the flutter that I'm talking about. Now let's try it on the high speed. But it didn't go too bad going through the brush on the low speed. Let's try it on the high. Not bad, pretty good. All right, and that 2-speed motor on the low speed is 7,000 RPMs. On the high speed, it's 7,500 RPMs. So let's see if we could achieve that. Not a big range in RPMs, but Let's see if it does it. K45 on a low speed. All right, so on the low speed, you see we're actually getting 6,700 RPMs. A little bit short. Let's try it on the high speed. On the high speed, we're getting 7,267. Let's just round that up to 7,300. And we're pretty close to the advertised runtime for the high speed. And when you compare the Kemei motor to the one that's in the Tomb45, the Tomb45 has a brush motor as well, and it has 2 speeds, 6,800 on the low speed, 7,500 on the high speed. And when you're switching those speeds on the Kemei, you turn it on, it's automatically on the low speed. Press it again, it goes on the high speed. But if you're operating on the low speed and you want to turn it off, you have to ramp it up high again and then click it off. So you have to click it twice. Tomb45, whatever you left it on is how it will be. So if you want to ramp it up high, you hold that down. And if you turn it off, it's just the power button. And if you turn it back on, it's right on the speeds you left it on, which is definitely a better, well thought out feature than how they do the speed change on the switch for the Kemei. And now let's talk about the battery. Now on the battery, we are supposed to get 200 minutes. That comes out to 3 hours and 20 minutes. Let's see if we could achieve that, and we'll start with the low speed first and then see what we get on that full power high speed. So we're gonna put the machine on the charger, get a full charge, throw it in the clamp, and see how long it runs on the low speed. All right, on the low speed, we got 2 hours and 56 minutes, a respectable runtime, but a little bit below the advertised runtime. Now let's check it on the high speed. So we're gonna charge the machine back up, throw it in the clamp, turn it on the high speed, hit the shot clock, and see how long it lasts. All right, so on the high speed, we got 2 hours and 16 minutes, definitely shorter than the advertised 3 hours and 20 minutes at full power. All right, so now let's talk about the body for the Kemei. As you know, it has a detachable head, has a thumb indentation right here. Moving down, the power button, change the speed. You have the translucent window here, which shows the battery percentage. On the bottom, USB-C charging and the charging contacts. Rolling the machine to the side, you see we have it a little skinnied out for better grip. Thumb grooves on the back and a bunch of grip slits to give you a better grip. And when you compare this body to the Tomb45, the Kemei definitely feels like it has cheaper plastic. The body's a lot lighter. It doesn't have the rubber grip on the back like the Tomb45. Not as many charging options as the Tomb45. And like I said before, the lights are definitely better on the Tomb45. You can barely see the lights on the Kemei in a bright shot. All right, so now let's get into the weight and the sound for the Kemei. Kemei weighing in at 9.1 ounces or 259 grams. All right, now let's check the sound and we'll start off on the low speed. Coming in at 71 decibels on the low speed. Let's check it on the high speed. Coming in at 72 decibels on the high speed. Like I said, there isn't that big of a jump when it comes to the speed switch on the Clipper. All right, now let's talk about the price for this machine. Now this machine on AliExpress is pretty much a $50 machine. Comparing it to the BaByliss, a more premium machine, you can find this machine for $179.99. But what do we get with the K45? Let's see what's in the box. All right, so with the machine, you get blade cover, clean out brush, manual, USB-C charging cable, charging stand, that connects USB-C. And one cool thing about this charging stand, it has charging contacts on the side, so as long as you have one charging stand plugged in, it can connect to other ones magnetically, and it will charge both machines with one connection. A set of guards with a metal tab and pretty good plastic, going from a number 4 3, 2, 1.5, 1.5. And these guards remind me of the BaByliss premium guards. These guards are also very different than the style guards that come with the Tomb45. All right, so now let's tear it down, open the machine up, and see what we got inside. All right, so here's a look inside the Kemei-1386 or the K45. You see we have this brush motor, circuit board, battery underneath. Not a bad looking machine, but I really didn't like the way the motor interacted with the blades and everything else. All right, so let's put the machine back together and give you my final thoughts. All right, so my final thoughts are this. You can get a lot of cheap machines nowadays that are pretty decent, and this is one of them. If this was the only clipper I had and I had to do a cut, I can still provide professional results for this and the cuts will come out pretty decent. But this is not something that I will keep on my station. Blades get a little too hot, the motor's a little fluttery, it feels very cheap. It wasn't well thought out with having to always rev up to the high power and press it twice to turn it off. It's just made to get you to buy it because it has a popular body that is very similar to the BaByliss Tomb45 body. But it's not the same machine by any means. This isn't the same machine with a different label. And it wouldn't even be getting reviewed if it didn't have this body on it. It would just be another run-of-the-mill cheap Kemei clippers that performs pretty good for the price, but not something you're going to use every day for professional use. So this clipper is going into the clipper library, and I don't know when it's coming back out, but that's a deal with it. I know you guys are really curious about this, and hopefully I answered all your questions. If not, drop a comment below, and I'll try to answer it if I didn't answer it in the video. Barber's Lounge.